Hi, this is Billie Beene here with a U.S. news update. Today's date, May 31, 2024, time about 11 a.m. in Texas. This is U.S. episode 180. Some of the things we'll be covering. We have a coming CME, currently a KP index for auroras of 5. And what is Airglow? And more storms, Texas and the U.S. 10 days of darkness. And the U.S. military plus President Trump. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot Subscriber. My weather sources I'm regularly using Texas Weather Center, Tim VASQUEZ, MITCH, Ryan Hall, y'all. Also, more sources on Steve Quayle's aggregate site, GATESTONE Institution, plus All News Pipeline. Before us news, a recent interview by 107, Stephen GARDNER, Space Weather, Suspicious Observers, Hal Turner, Newsweek, Reuters, plus Real Raw News. Yeah, they had some good news. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber who says, we witness a captured, collapsed government. This comes after that recent fake verdict for President Trump. I'll get into it more. And this says, regarding that fake trial for President Trump, allegedly he was guilty of 34 felonies, and a state cannot prosecute a federal crime, which is how they were getting it to the felony level. Now, the hush money election fraud case in New York City had been presented to the New York State Federal Election Commission twice, and both times they said there's no crime here. Also, for the misdemeanor part that the fake New York City court is elevating to felonies, misdemeanors, the statute of limitation expired in 2017. So that's going on. And now we have this. So with Texas weather, okay, Texas weather, we continue to see weather warfare being perpetrated against the people of the United States of America. And Texas and central U.S. We had Into Thin Air, who documented that the U.S. federal government using NextRad is projecting frequencies this way to lock in this block of severe thunderstorms, extreme lightning, huge hail, flooding, and so on. So in Texas on Thursday, May 31, today, May 31, we have multiple storms, over 80% of Texas to bring more wind, hail, and storm clusters. And then we can expect to see this Thursday and Friday, possibly extending into Saturday and Sunday, according to the Texas Weather Center. And now we have the suspicious observers. I was talking about a CME coming. We've recently had X flares, multiple M flares, and we can expect a CME tonight or possibly tomorrow, per suspicious observers Ben Davidson. But the CME that's already heading toward Earth has already raised the KP index to near 5. It's currently at 4.67. The KP index indicates how far down in latitude the auroras will come. A 5 for the U.S., that'll be Canada and the top tier states, the northern states. But I submit, if this is already the KP index near 5, with the CME just inbound, we can expect a possible auroras on a global basis again. The geomagnetic storm may not be a G5 as we saw on May 10, but because of the weakening electromagnetic shield around the Earth, we still could see, I believe, global auroras. So tonight or tomorrow. We had the sunspot group that produced the G5 is now numbered 3697. We have a new sunspot 3691. And we also have additional spots, sunspots developing. And suspicious observers had an interesting paper correlating sun activity, impact with the Earth's electromagnetic field, and electricity, strong lightning. And I submit that's one of the reasons we're seeing intense thunderstorms. It's due to more energy coming in from the sun because the Earth's electromagnetic shield is weakening. And yeah, so Ben Davidson is saying we have this KP index near 5, and that's based on a weak coronal stream currently coming in ahead of the CME, which he describes as the shock wave. So that's going on. And now we have this. Okay, I have two of my neighbors were talking, and one first neighbor said, oh, she has a YouTube site. And the second neighbor said, what kind is it? And the first neighbor said, conspiracy. So now I'm going to talk about Airglow. And this is defined on Wikipedia. Now, I know a lot of people don't place much validity in Wikipedia, but it's good for definitions, spelling, dates, like that. Airglow is defined as diffuse light from stars, and it has nothing to do with Earth's magnetic field, nor the sun. So it says it's diffuse light from the stars. But on space weather today, it's talking about this green sky being seen around Earth. And space weather, government site, is saying, oh, yeah, it's the collision between oxygen O and molecules O2. And solar activity boost Airglow. And studies show Airglow is 40% brighter when the sun is the most active. So we see two different perspectives of the same topic. Airglow, Wikipedia says it's diffused light from stars. It's not related to the sun. Space weather says, yeah, that green sky you're seeing, it's coming from the sun. So, conspiracy or no? And now we have this. Tim VASQUEZ. Now, he's one of the weather sites I use. Tim has written books about weather. He was trained in the U.S. military. Talking about a derecho, and we know that's a straight line wind up to 85 miles per hour that extends out 240 miles that happened near Dallas and moved planes around. And currently we had up to 1 million people without electricity. Now it's down to about 250,000 or 1/4 million. still without electricity. And we're in our 90-90 phase. Temperatures of 90 degrees Fahrenheit with a humidity of 90%. Now, Tim VASQUEZ is bringing this out, and I saw this also. So we have India experiencing high temperatures up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. We have South America, Brazil, also experiencing extreme temperatures. We saw Victoria, Mexico, up to 117 degrees Fahrenheit. I submit to you that this is also due to the South Atlantic anomaly, and that is a dip in the Earth's electromagnetic field that extends over and has split and is now covering these areas and is now in the Atlantic Ocean and moving toward the U.S. That means we have less electromagnetic protection over our nation. I submit we are going to see, and this correlates with multiple sources, extreme hot temperatures this summer. And now we have this from, we have electricity on 80% of the people without electricity in Texas have been restored. And we have these extreme storms took down power lines, uprooted old established trees, took roofs off. We had 7 deaths in Valley View, located near Dallas. We had 1 death the day before in the Woodlands, located near Houston. Repair crews from 8 states are working 16-hour days in Texas to restore the power. But our forecast for Thursday is more heavy rain, possible flash flooding. We have the great governor of the state of Texas has signed more counties into a disaster declaration. We now have, out of 254 counties in the state of Texas, we have 108 declared disasters from the recent storms we've been seeing. And now we have this. In Eddyville, Kentucky, that's been rated an EF3, the extreme storm they had a few days ago. In Greenville, Iowa, we have had an EF4. And near Dallas, we had an EF2. Now, this is these EF ratings are based on the Fujita scale. So a 2 is with a wind speed of 111 miles per hour up to 135. A 3 is wind speeds of 136 to 165. And a 4 is wind speed of 166 to 200. And it does go up to a level 5, 201 miles per hour plus. Now, Mike from around the world said that in the near future, we would be seeing EF5s. And we know now what to pray against. And now we have this. In Marathon, Texas, Wednesday, May 29, we had a temperature of 105 that within 1 hour went down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, extreme hail. They had 2 feet of hail fall. It looked like snow. And Thursday, today, they're expecting 2 inches of rain. So that's going on. And I know in the past few days, locally, we had hail in Sweeney, Texas, and Clear Lake, Texas, areas around Houston. And now we have this. Oh yeah, this is good news. Mesquite, Texas, a suburb of Dallas, the U.S. military is opening a new plant to produce 155 millimeter ammunition. And they're going to set their production goal at 100,000 rounds per month. So that's going on. And now we have this. I think this is coming from 107, but I have multiple sources. Cliff High, Jim Willie, Gene Decode. Oh yeah, I remember this. So we're hearing all these things about WHO and the pandemic agreement, which is failing, bird flu, Ebola, and so on. So now, when we had the COVID in 2020 in Wuhan, China, and I had multiple sources for this, the people who had received the pharma for the arm were exposed to certain frequencies, and that led to initially, it was 22 million who dropped dead. By the fall, it was about 42 million. Now, one of the sources, which was a concrete measurement of a dramatic decrease in the Chinese population, was a sudden drop in the number of cell phones being used inside China. So that happened. And now we're having this equated to what went on in the U.S. in November of 2020. We know we saw an extreme event, and then in January of 2021, we saw a political coup by the U.S. Congress, who put JB in place. So that's going on. Now, 107 is projecting and also talking about even pipelines and ships. We saw that happen can be remote controlled, and even pipelines. We saw that ship remote controlled crashing into Baltimore. We saw a recent event in Galveston, Texas. I think we saw another event with the release of 26 barges in Ohio. That happened a few months ago. So we see the deep state at work, taking down the infrastructure of the U.S. And now we have this. So evidence is coming out. Yeah, what happened here, General McInerney, a 3-star retired Army general, was one of the sources I had for what went on here. And the U.S. military, tragically, I believe 6 U.S. military were killed by the CIA in a shootout in Germany when the U.S. military, right after the election, went to secure servers. So we know that happened. We know that there's been a court DOJ cover-up of the Hunter Biden laptop. And we know also associated with the November 2020 event, it's now coming out that in Canada, Dominion machines had individuals from China and Serbia manipulating the vote. and that also occurred in the nation of Serbia. Now, it isn't the Serbian government. It was the headquarters of Dominion Voting Machines located in Serbia, where the steal was going on. Also in Italy, associated with the Vatican, Leonardo satellites. There was also been documented there was more foreign interference from the CCP and China. Now, what 107 is putting forth is, and my perception is right now in June, July, my perception is this is a dangerous period for the U.S. We see this fake verdict against President Trump, who is recognized more and more as the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military. And 107 puts forth, it's likely we might see 10 days of darkness this summer, and definitely before November of 2024, the presidential election. And that would take down satellites, cell phones, internet, TV, cable. Now, he's saying electricity and pipelines, but my perception is that American citizens would continue to have power and gas and water. It's just the communication items, I believe, that could be taken down. Now, it is a good idea to prep with food and water before this event happens. So we're talking about 10 days. And for water, it's good to store 1 gallon per person per day. So that's going on. Do I believe that could happen? It's possible. Now, Stephen Gardner also brings this information out about voting irregularities following the presidential election in 2020 in Georgia. They had something like 300,000 plus digital votes evidence disappear. And we have 100,000 in Pennsylvania, dated with no date, counted after the election. And in Wisconsin, we had a fired election official who, it could be proven, printed and filled out fake ballots. So that's going on. So we see more and more proof coming out that yes, November 2020 election, there was a lot going on there. Now, President Trump, we heard, had that fake conviction that came out yesterday in New York City. And multiple sources say Soros money plus the Dem Party is in control of Judge Merchan and the district attorney Alvin Bragg, and that they had meetings in the White House with handlers of JB before any of the charges were filed. And so it's sentencing for this conviction of President Trump on fake 34 felonies is to take place July 11. Now, I had friends on Facebook. Right after that, they brought out a U.S. map surrounded by bananas, implying the U.S. is a banana republic. Political scientists define a banana republic as a nation that subverts democracy to increase its cash flow, and it can be described as politically unstable. So that's going on. And now we have this from All News Pipeline. Yeah, we see the Dems and the deep state, flooding the U.S. with illegals. And now multiple examples. They're becoming much more aggressive, I submit. Keep your powder dry, baby. Red dawn may be on the horizon this summer. And we see this, that a U.S. admiral warns the nation that there have been multiple incursions into U.S. naval bases, and this is now happening 2 to 3 times per week by illegals. And at Quantico, this is the training location, I believe in Virginia, for the FBI. Also, the U.S. military has a separate group. And recently, 2 Jordanian terrorists posing as Amazon drivers tried to breach Quantico, but they were spotted and arrested. And we have this coming from the JB show. The border is safe. Now, the great governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott, and the patriots of Texas have reduced the number of illegals coming across the Texas border from several thousand per day down to about 3. We put our Texas military on the border, the Texas National Guard, many other great states sent their National Guard and Highway Patrol. So it's a coordinated effort by 26 states to protect the border of the U.S., which the JB show unconstitutionally has opened to illegals, CCP military, Iranian military, and terrorists from around the world. So that's going on. And now we have this. China, we heard and I reported, months ago, probably about 6 months ago in California, there was a secret CCP lab, and it's now coming out. They were in the process of weaponizing Ebola. They had a freezer labeled Ebola, and they had thousands of different types of pathogens. And a recent CCP general, Chi Ho-shan, Minister of Defense, said China will use disease to destroy American citizens. Now, Ebola has been weaponized since the 1960s. So that's going on. It's good to know what we need to pray to God about. Now, I was talking about the high temperatures we're seeing in India. I believe that's due to a split in the South Atlantic anomaly, dipping the electromagnetic shield over India. They're up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, sustained. So the question is, if you have these high temperatures and it doesn't cool off at night, how long does it take to take down a certain percentage of human, animal, and plant life? But with regard to money, we're seeing a recent Federal Reserve auction to sell treasuries not having any buyers. And also recently in the U.S. Congress, and before the bill came out about the Nasara blockchain financial system, before that there was a bill in Congress to do away with the Federal Reserve. So we see concrete steps being taken to change our financial system. India moved $100 million of gold from the UK, and it was due to a lack of trust. India, among other nations, no longer trusts the West with regard to gold. The UK, the US, and other nations. And also, they moved their gold back to India because the West sanctions against other nations. India wanted to avoid that. And we saw recently that money that was stored in Europe by Russia being confiscated. So yeah, nations are not trusting the West with their money and gold. Now in Breitbart, we had a recent Supreme Court decision. On those convictions of President Trump, of course, he's going to appeal. So we had a Supreme Court vote 9-0 in favor of the National Rifle Association, and they won a lawsuit against New York, and that had to do with New York's move for anti-gun. Yeah, let the illegals and the terrorists be armed, but not American citizens in New York State. And in the NRA won their lawsuit against New York City because the Supreme Court said New York City's move violated the First Amendment, freedom of speech, put forth by New York politicians who oppose the Second Amendment. That's our right to be armed. And this came from the former New York Governor Cuomo, who made these moves against the NRA. So Breitbart reports Supreme Court vote in favor of the NRA, 9-0. And now we saw President Trump. We saw New York City, and as I mentioned before, it appears that the court system inside the whole state of New York appears to be systemically evil and corrupt. So we see now, almost immediately after the verdict, President Trump's campaign increased $50 million. I think more and more Americans are saying, oh my God, what's going on? Plus, we saw a higher percentage of the U.S. military moving to recognize President Trump as the commander-in-chief. Now, President Trump currently is recognized by up to 90% of the U.S. military as commander-in-chief when it comes to okaying the use of nukes and weapons above nukes. Now, there is after this verdict came out, immediately across the U.S. military, tens of thousands of U.S. military officers are moving toward the U.S. military that recognizes President Trump as commander-in-chief. I submit to you, the JB show is now in charge of a small percentage of the U.S. military. And now for a short prayer. O Lord, open our skies We stretch out our hands to our skies and prophesy as believers of the Word of our God, and we speak with spirit, imitating our Messiah, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, whose words are spirit and prophecy. And we say, let our skies be clear, vibrating, brimming with light, without clouds, and let grass spring forth from the earth by clear shining. And we say, thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there. Continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.